The silence before entry was always the loudest. Commander Jack Roke stood in the narrow pod, stripped of armor, stripped of gear, stripped of everything except a thin black jumpsuit and instinct. No HUD. No rifle. Not even a knife. Just him and a countdown glowing red on the interior wall. 007. The Krylos Trials. A sport, a slaughter, a broadcast spectacle. 10 alien warlords, genetically engineered apex predators, would hunt him for entertainment. That was the deal Earth had agreed to. A backdoor gamble to prove human worth to the intergalactic concord. No diplomats. No tech demonstrations. Just one man, surviving. 003. He flexed his jaw. Hope they like surprises. Midnight. The floor vanished. Roke dropped like a bullet from orbit. Heat licked the outside of the pod. No re-entry shield. No stabilizers. Just a deadweight dive. He tensed every muscle, timing the moments. The jungle canopy exploded beneath the pod like a green firework as he smashed through layers of alien flora. Crack. Crash. The pod slammed into the swamp floor, throwing him sideways. Metal groaned. The door hissed open on command. No turning back now. Jack stepped out into Krylos 9. A jungle built by nightmares. Trees towered like skyscrapers, their trunks pulsing with bioluminescent veins. Insects the size of birds hissed above. Mist clung low, thick and warm, smelling of rot and ozone. Alien calls echoed in the distance, guttural and wet. High above, a drone whirred silently. Watching. Broadcasting. Jack looked straight up, smirked, and flipped it off. A mechanical voice echoed from his dropped pod, a translator system that barely survived impact. Prey has landed. The hunt begins. He didn't flinch. He didn't run. Instead, he dropped to a knee and jammed his fingers into the mud, sniffing the ground like an animal. 6 sets of tracks. Fresh. Heavy. Spaced too evenly. They were already closing in. Of course they'd start nearby. Gotta keep the ratings up. He moved. Not away from the tracks, toward them. 10 minutes later. He crouched under a massive fern leaf, knife now in hand, improvised from shattered pod debris, sharpened on rock, wrapped in vine. It wouldn't last long, but it would do. Above him, one of the hunters moved through the canopy. 10 feet tall, reptilian hide glistening under the mist. 4 arms, each holding some cruel piece of tech, thermal spear, net launcher, and a clawed gauntlet that hummed with charged electricity. The Vorten didn't see Jack. But Jack saw him. With deliberate silence, Jack rolled sideways, reached up, and jammed the vine-slicked blade deep into the Vorten's thigh as it landed beside him. The alien howled, an awful, screeching rumble. Jack sprang up, grabbed the creature's own weight, and wrenched it backward into a spiked root system. The alien thrashed once. Then it was still. Blood, green, viscous, steaming, pooled into the mud. Jack wiped his blade on the ferns. Big guy, small brain. Good start. The forest pulsed. Something had changed. The others would know now. This wasn't going to plan. In orbit, aboard the hunt craft. Lord Vraxos narrowed his eyes. Impossible. A hollow display flickered to show the downed hunter's body, limbs splayed unnaturally, steam rising from its wounds. The human stood over him, inspecting the corpse like a bored butcher. He killed Kernak with a stick? A lesser Vorten stammered. It appears so, pack leader. Vraxos's eyes gleamed with red slits. Then the hunt is real. Back on Krylos 9. Jack scavenged quickly, ripping off the gauntlet, stripping wiring, pulling a spine-thin bone dagger from the corpse's boot sheath. He took a pulsimeter from the alien's belt, rewired it, and jammed it into the mud, facing up. A blinking red dot. A false trail. Then he vanished into the trees. 3 hours later. Jack crouched in the crook of a tree, 30 feet above ground. Breathing low. Heart steady. Below, 2 Vorten stalked through the jungle with weapons drawn, snarling in alien tongues. One of them followed the emitter's signal, cursing. The other stopped. looked around. Suspicious. Good, Jack murmured. You're learning. He dropped silently, landing between them like a whisper. With precise violence, he drove the bone dagger into the second Vorton's neck, twisted, and kicked the body into the bushes. The first turned too late. Jack threw the dagger. It embedded in the hunter's eye. Silence again. He retrieved his blade. Looked up at the watching drone. You getting this, boys? 5 kills by nightfall. No gear. No backup. No comms. But Jack Roke wasn't just surviving. He was hunting. He'd memorized the terrain. Understood the alien rhythm. Each kill taught him more. How they moved. How they thought. They were efficient. But predictable. And worst of all, they thought he was still running. At the edge of the dead hollow, Jack crouched, drawing lines in the dirt with a charred stick. He'd found a natural kill zone, an ancient dried riverbed with only one real exit. He reinforced it with sharpened branches, tripwires from scavenged belts, and a crude slingshot mechanism using tree bark and heavy stones. As he worked, he heard the faint hum of Raxos's command frequency, piggyback through the alien comms system he'd salvaged. Enough games. I want the human's head before the next cycle. Jack grinned and whispered to no one. You'll get it, but not the way you want. He stood at the center of his trap, arms loose, face dirty, blade at his side. And for the first time since the drop, he laughed. The sun on Krylos 9 didn't rise so much as bleed light through clouds the color of bruises. By dawn, the jungle glowed faintly blue. Jack Roke knelt in the riverbed, checking tripwire tension and the slingshot rig's anchor point. Every trap was reset, upgraded. A cracked Vorton mask dangled from a branch, his warning sign. He wasn't hiding anymore. He was inviting them. Above, drones whirred like insects, transmitting his every move to billions. Across half the galaxy, spectators had tuned in to watch a human die. But now, they watched him prepare. Vorton command deck, orbiting Huntcraft. 3 dead. 2 missing. The rest are hesitant, the technician reported. The pack isn't advancing. Raxos loomed over the command dais. His claws curled against the steel. He's baiting us. No prey baits the pack, my lord. Raxos stared at the screen. Jack was cleaning blood off his blade with alien moss, humming. He isn't prey. Jungle floor, dead hollow perimeter. Jack finished securing his last trap, a vine snare that would snap a Vorton off its feet and slam it into a sharpened tree stump. He heard them. Low clicks. Heavy breathing. Just beyond the mist. Jack whispered to himself. Let's see how brave you are without the numbers. The first hunter entered fast, overconfident, charging with a net cannon. Jack didn't move. The net fired, perfect shot. Until it triggered the tripwire. Snap. Crack. The Vorton's feet flew out from under him. He screamed as the slingshot flung a fist-sized stone directly into his jaw. He collapsed in a heap, groaning. Before he could recover, Jack sprinted forward and drove a stolen spike into the creature's throat. He rolled behind a fallen log just as plasma bolts tore through the clearing. Smarter, Jack muttered. But still loud. He shifted position constantly, never stayed behind the same cover twice. A second Vorton flanked him, using thermal imaging. Jack had expected that. He'd rigged heat signatures using the dead hunter's gear and a few thermal stones from the swamp. The image bait worked. The Vorton fired into the decoy. Jack moved behind him silently, then jammed an alien toxin needle, pulled earlier from a scavenged dart trap, into the back of its neck. The hunter spasmed, gurgled, and dropped. That was 4 today. 9 total. He took the gauntlet from the corpse. Finally, a weapon that wasn't just a stick. It powered on, humming softly. Jack slipped it over his arm. The screen inside flickered, displaying Vorton glyphs. He tapped through the menu. Most of it was garbage, tracking systems and inbuilt warnings. But one mode caught his eye. Hunt command channel, active. He grinned. Let's make some noise. Orbit, Vorten control room. A warning flashed across the command interface. Someone had accessed internal comms. A human voice echoed through the Vorten channel. Pack leader. If this is your best. I expected more. And here I was worried I'd die today. Vraxos slammed a claw into the console. Trace him. Already triangulating, he's within the hollow. Send the rest. End this. The tech hesitated. Sir, morale is breaking. They're frightened. Vraxos roared. Then remind them what happens to cowards. Back on the surface. Jack used the open channel to deliver his taunts like sniper rounds. Vraxos, you talk a big game. But the jungle only listens to one voice, mine now. He shut it off. He didn't need to talk anymore. He needed them to come. By nightfall, the jungle stank of Vorten blood. Jack didn't need to kill them all. Just enough to fracture their hierarchy. He planted the last corpse in a tree, arms spread, gear stripped, eyes open. The body faced the northwest trail, where Vorten patrols usually circled. It was a message. Later that night. Rain fell hard, acidic and hot. Jack crouched in a ridge above the hollow. His traps were reset. His stolen gauntlet emitted a faint blue light, flickering with alien symbols he no longer bothered trying to decode. He sipped collected rainwater. A single Vorten passed nearby, moving slow, scanning high branches. Alone. Jack leaned close to the mic in his wrist. Hey, Vraxos. I like this one. He's cautious. Almost smart. The hunter froze. Looked around. Too late. Jack dropped from above, grabbed the Vorten's head, and twisted with brutal precision. Crack. He left the body where it fell. Vorten hung craft. Later that cycle. The remaining hunters had clustered near the jungle edge, refusing to re-enter without command override. Vraxos stared at their feet, bodies hung from trees. Traps glowing in UV light. The human had turned their arena into a graveyard. One of his captains finally said what the others feared. He's stalking us. Vraxos didn't answer. Final hour before cycle end. Jack knelt by his fire pit. No flame, just chemical heat stones taken from enemy belts. Enough warmth to keep his muscles from locking. He looked up at the drone still following him, ever faithful to the broadcast. I hope you're enjoying the show, he said softly. Then, almost as an afterthought, he began to laugh again. Not madness. Not arrogance. Certainty. He had tasted their fear. And now they knew it too. The jungle no longer whispered, it listened. Every vine, every root, every shadow had become a trap in the minds of the remaining hunters. 6 had fallen. 3 refused to patrol without backup. The 10th, their youngest, hadn't spoken since watching a fellow warrior impaled on his own spear, reversed and planted with surgical cruelty. Jack Roke didn't need to kill them now. He only had to be seen. Midday, Krylos 9. He crouched inside the husk of a hollow tree, cloaked in Vorten mesh camo. Stolen tech, rewired? The alien interface was complex, but Jack had long since cracked the basics: movement masking, energy diffusion, and the most useful feature, voice modulation. He keyed the gauntlet. Unit 4, sweep north. Target passed through the lower ridge. The hunters obeyed. No hesitation. They trusted the comms. Jack smiled. 30 minutes later. Unit 4 found a trail, deep human footprints in the mud. Fresh. Spaced perfectly. They followed with precision, every sensor humming. Until the lead Vorten triggered a motion glyph. A weighted log, hidden in the canopy, swung down at eye level. It crushed the first 2. The third tried to run, only to find a mesh net yanked tight, pinning him midair. Jack emerged from the brush. Silent. Controlled. Too easy, he muttered. He didn't strike yet. He studied the Vorten instead. The way it trembled. The twitching claws. The shallow, ragged breaths. Jack leaned in close, face inches from its eye. You're not the hunter here, he said softly. You're the lesson. He released the net halfway, just enough for the creature to stumble free. Go tell Vraxos what you saw. He vanished before it could even turn. Orbit, Huncraft control deck. They're breaking, one tech whispered. He let one live. On purpose. Vraxos's jaw clenched. He hadn't spoken in hours. Watching. Calculating. The footage looped, Jack standing over the bound Vorton, whispering. Then gone. A phantom. He's using restraint, the strategist muttered. Psychological warfare. Prey doesn't do that. He's no longer prey. Another muttered. Vraxos turned, voice like a blade. He never was. Hours later, Krylo's jungle. Jack moved without noise. He carried more now, scavenged gear, pulse detonators, a modified spear carved from a Vorton thigh plate. He didn't look like a contestant anymore. He looked like a rival. The camera drones tracked him. Galaxies watched. Wagers shifted. Commentary feeds exploded with speculation. Human war god? Biotech experiment? Is Earth hiding its warriors? Jack cared for none of it. This wasn't about a show. It was a message. He caught another Vorton sleeping. It was rare. They never slept alone. But this one had wandered off, mentally broken, physically drained. Jack didn't strike. He sat across the campfire, barely a flicker between them. The alien jolted awake. You're not dreaming, Jack said in perfect Vorton dialect. The hunter froze. I want you to tell your pack leader something, Jack continued. I'm not done. I'm evolving. Every kill teaches me. Every moment I'm not dead. That's a debt your kind can't afford. He stood. Tossed a packet of nutrient gel, stolen from another corpse, into the Vorton's lap. I'll leave you with a gift. You'll need your strength. Jack disappeared into the foliage. Orbit, Galactic Broadcast Network. The views surged past 3 billion. The human was rewriting the Krylos trials. The official broadcast changed its tagline. From prey to predator, Earth's first contender. Jungle clearing, near Vraxos's drop site. Jack had scouted every inch of the map. But one zone remained restricted, Vraxos's command module, a mobile base deep within the marshlands. Guarded. Shielded. Jack wanted in. He studied the patrol rhythm. They were tighter now. More cautious. But still predictable. Fear made them slow. Repetitive. Jack planted EMP spikes, small, silent devices powered by hack tech. A single surge would blind sensors for 60 seconds. He positioned the last one beneath a root arch weighted. The patrol passed. He triggered the pulse. Flash. Pop hiss. Every light blinked out. Shields dropped. Sensors died. Jack bolted from cover, slid through the gate, and vanished inside the Vorton base. Inside the module. No guards. No traps. Just screens. Dozens of them. Every angle of the jungle. Every corpse. Every movement. He was the centerpiece of it all. Jack uploaded a data spike, one he'd crafted from memory during his first night. Military-grade worm protocol. Not to destroy. To broadcast. He looked into the nearest camera. Vraxos. You built this game to prove your dominance. You forgot one thing. Humans didn't survive Earth by being the strongest. We survived because we adapt. He stepped back. Come down and finish this yourself. He left the base burning behind him. Orbit, Huncraft throne deck. The screens went black. Every Vorton fell silent. Vraxos stood slowly, eyes burning. Ready my descent. Surface, jungle nightfall. Jack returned to the hollow. The fire was back. He sat on a crate of supplies he had buried 2 days ago. Finally, a moment to breathe. The jungle was still. Too still. Then, a distant boom. A flash from the eastern sky. A new drop pod. Heavy. Reinforced. Vraxos had arrived. Jack stood and stretched. Good. I was getting bored. Galactic hunters surrounded a Navy SEAL, until his laugh made them tremble. The jungle didn't move. It held its breath. Jack Roke stood at the ridge overlooking the dead hollow, eyes locked on the scorched clearing below where the reinforced pod had landed minutes ago. The Vorten warlord was finally here. A plume of steam hissed from the pod's side. The metal groaned. Something massive moved inside. Jack whispered, "Come on, Vraxos. Let's end this." The hatch blew outward. A silhouette emerged, 8 feet tall, plated in obsidian black armor laced with burning red veins. 4 arms. 2 carried weapons, 2 hung relaxed, twitching. The air shimmered around him. Not just from heat. Pressure. The kind that made lesser men freeze. Jack didn't flinch. He stepped forward into the open. "Took you long enough." Vraxos's voice was like grinding stone. "I expected more meat on a war god." Jack smirked. "I expected more brains on a warlord." The moment snapped. Vraxos charged. Jack moved sideways, barely dodging the first strike, an arm-length energy blade meant to cleave bone. He rolled across the mud, triggered a mine with his heel. The explosion flared, catching Vraxos in the shoulder. No scream. No stumble. The warlord straightened and kept coming. Jack dove into the trees. Vraxos followed, blasting vines, toppling trunks. Each step thundered. But Jack knew this terrain better. He ran through paths he had rigged days ago. Branches snapped. Traps triggered. One caught Vraxos mid-step, spraying corrosive sludge from a scavenged Vorten tank. The armor hissed. The beast inside laughed. "You want me scared, human? You'll need more than tricks." Jack gritted his teeth. "Got plenty more." 30 meters west, near the collapsed ridge. Jack vaulted over a fallen boulder and skidded down a slope. He yanked open a camouflage crate, his emergency fallback. Inside, 2 plasma canisters, a cracked visor, and the Vorten gauntlet he modified the night before. He slid it on. Checked the charge. 1 pulse left. He didn't plan to miss. Vraxos barreled through the underbrush, smoke trailing from his armor. "You run like prey." Jack stepped into the open again, this time at the base of a ravine. "I run to let you think you're winning." Vraxos lunged. Jack waited. 1 second. 2. Then ducked. The warlord slammed into a trunk rigged with kinetic coils. Boom. The tree detonated, hurling Vraxos across the ravine. He crashed into stone, rolled, and sprang up. Bleeding now. Good. Jack circled, breathing hard. "Tired yet?" Vraxos smiled through blood. "Eager." They clashed again. This time, Jack fought close, darting in with a jagged Vorten blade, scoring across joints, under armor plates, targeting exposed mesh. Vraxos countered with raw force, but Jack never stayed in range long enough to be grabbed. He hit. Moved. Struck again. Then the warlord's fist connected. Jack flew back, slammed into rock. Ribs cracked. Air gone. Vraxos stalked forward. "You're resourceful. Clever. But fragile." Jack coughed, pulled himself up. "Funny. I was about to say the same thing." He triggered the pulse. The gauntlet screamed. A shockwave exploded outward. Not enough to kill, but enough to disable every energy system in 20 feet. Vraxos's armor shorted. His HUD blinked out. His weapons went dark. Jack limped forward. No more tech. No more tricks. Just him. And a stolen blade. The two collided like titans. Jack ducked a backhand swipe, drove his knife upward, cutting through a soft plate under Vraxos's arm. The warlord roared. Blood poured. Vraxos slammed him down. Jack twisted, kicked upward into the alien's knee joint. It bent sideways with a crunch. The warlord stumbled. Jack climbed onto his back, wrapped an arm around Vraxos's neck, and drove the blade into the base of the skull, again. And again. And again. The creature bucked, howled, staggered into a tree. Then dropped to one knee. Jack slid off, panting, bloody. "Stay down." Vraxos looked up, half-blind, broken. "What are you?" Jack stepped close. "The reason you'll never hunt humans again." He drove the blade one last time into the chest, straight through the heart. Vraxos slumped forward, silent. Moments later, the jungle shifted. A distant drone zoomed in. The broadcast still live. The galaxy watching. Jack faced it. Mud-caked. Ribs bruised. Blood down his jaw. And he laughed. Not wild. Not cruel. Confident. Controlled. He looked straight into the lens. "Tell your leaders. Earth doesn't kneel." Orbit, Galactic Council Command Room. Dozens of species stared in silence. The Vorten warlord lay dead. One human stood alone. A Terran ambassador, seated in the back row, leaned forward and said quietly, "We'll take our seat at the table now." No one objected. Krylos 9, 6 hours later. Evac came at dawn. A single black dropship touched down beside the ruined jungle arena. Jack climbed aboard, still limping, still grinning. The pilot looked him over. "Was it worth it?" Jack dropped into the seat. "For Earth?" "Always." The hatch sealed behind him. The jungle faded into mist.